as you hit the button, you are live.
Okay, we are setting up your meeting to Facebook Live. I believe we are live, right? You're watching? Okay. All right, so we are good to go. How exciting.
So we have people on. We're ready, set, go.
We're ready, set, go.
Okay.
I'm going to watch it. I'm watching it on the double screen, so we should be good to go though.
Okay, I think I will do the same. Well, hello everybody. This is a first. We're doing a joint live Facebook meeting. My name is Jeanette Trumpeter. I'm your moderator for this, and we are joined by, of course, our esteemed Pismo Beach Mayor, Ed Waage. Lisa Krupach is clapping there. She's the Pismo Chamber of Commerce. Kerbosh, sorry.
Krupach, it's okay.
Chamber of Commerce chairperson, and Valerie Mercado is the vice chair of our Pismo Chamber of Commerce. And the reason that this has come to be is obviously we're living in unusual times. And so with COVID-19 and the pandemic and the restrictions that come from I guess ultimately there's federal restrictions, then we have state restrictions, and we have county restrictions, and then we have each municipality that has to deal with this. It has been hard on all of us. I've lost 3 of my most major clients. We know a lot of businesses are struggling. And I can tell you, in working with the County of San Luis Obispo and the City of Pismo Beach, that nobody is making decisions lightly. If you can imagine the directions of input that you are receiving, all the people making decisions, you have, your next agency that's higher than you telling you what you can and can't do. You have businesses, you have people who are scared to death of the physical threats of this disease. So it is a challenge. And what we're trying to do is just have an open discussion about how these decisions are made, what our future may look like, and how we've handled it from the past. I will make one ground rule. I'll be opting out if I hear any profanity. We want people to be nice here. We're having everybody take time out of their day to have this discussion. So let's just show some respect. We do live in a beautiful community, and we want to treat each other beautifully. So let's get things going. Does anyone, Lisa, do you want to maybe make a starting statement of how you guys came to me to ask me to do this, and just talk about what you hope to get out of it?
Well, I think the Chamber of Commerce, there just seems to be a little bit of a disconnect with people knowing what the role of the chamber is. Often they think that we make the decisions that really the city is making, or maybe county. So we thought, well, maybe this will clear things up for people. And it's always nice to have our mayor join us, because he's a very respectful and reasonable and rational person. So we enjoy our mayor and just helping people out, and just kind of breaking up the monotony a little bit, so to speak. Instead of talking about just COVID, we're talking about our beautiful city of Pismo Beach.
Okay, and Mayor, anything that you would like to say as we head into this? We have about 24 viewers right now. And again, those people watching us, feel free to ask your questions, make your statements. We have somebody monitoring all of those. But again, we're asking for respect and #be nice.
Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity to address the business community and others on this video. I think it's extraordinary times we're going through right now. I do have to say, though, I think because we've been working together, we're much better prepared to address all the various issues. Just kind of a high level situation, high level report of what's going on, if you will, behind the scenes. About 3 times a week, the mayors do meet by telephone with the county health officer and county administrative officer, and others to join the call, the county supervisors. And we have kind of a high level discussion of how things are going. And so we're definitely, it's a back and forth on what's going to work, because there's lots of ways to move forward, lots of ways to move backwards. And we're trying to balance both the health issues along with the business issues, and they're intertwined. If people are staying home and businesses are failing, that is a terrible health issue too. And I think at least the health officer really understands that. She understands the downside of people staying home, their jobs are going away and so on. And she is trying very hard to make sure that we can find safe ways to open so our economy can come back and we can address the health issues and address the health issues and bring our economy back. It's part of a healthy community is a healthy economy, and we need to keep that in mind.
Great, thank you, Mayor. And Valerie, kind of assume you've been covered the bases there, but anything you'd like to say as we get going?
Well, to kind of speak to a little bit more of what Lisa said, here with the Pismo Beach Chamber of Commerce, I don't want to say that we've been taking a major beating, but we kind of have. And I think, want people to get out of this live webinar today, how the Pismo Beach Chamber of Commerce or any Chamber of Commerce is different from the city. And, how we make decisions as a chamber versus how the city may make decisions. And I'm sure the mayor can speak to that. And then how then it rolls to the county and then up the chain. So I think the hierarchy of how decisions are made and explaining that here today is what I'm hoping to get out of this, because I think it's just really important for our business community, the locals in the community. We have about 6,000, 7,000 followers on this page, and we do have a lot of people watching from a lot of different areas. And so we've been on the map, we've been all over the news. There's no secret that everybody's coming to Pismo Beach and they're going to keep coming. And so just for you guys to just sit back and I think about the Pismo Beach Chamber of Commerce and what we actually do for businesses. And I'm going to have Lisa she's probably the best person to speak to that.
Before we get there, though, let's talk. I don't know that a lot of people realize, and Mayor, this one's for you. I know that I've been involved in some meetings at the county level, and they're looking to the state for what they can and can't do. And can we take that a step further, that you as a city is kind of looking to the county, which is then looking to the state? I mean, it's not like you can just decide tomorrow, all right, let's open it all up and go full bore.
No.
Well, and that's what we tried. The county tried to pretty much get permission from the state, from the governor's office, to go our own way. We put together a plan which was very well thought out, and the state said, no, you're going to have to pretty much abide by what the state is requiring. So although the plan is part of the submission to the state, to the health officer, the state health officer, and the governor's office, and our plan was approved. Along those lines, how these decisions are made, one of the big issues, of course, is the state is concerned about all of the tourists coming to Pismo Beach from the valley and elsewhere, and we're concerned about it too. But basically the governor needed some assurance that we were trying to address that issue of all the tourists coming to the beach. And the way the county decided to make this happen is by putting in their plan that we would restrict occupancy of the hotels to 50%. And we as a city thought that that was not the best way to proceed. We suggested perhaps that another way to do it, because it's only supposed to be essential business that people are coming to our hotels, was to reduce the number of people per room and not put a cap on the number of rooms. I did talk to the county administrative officer about it, and we went back and forth, and he, I think, felt like this was the most clear-cut way of moving forward to get the state approval. So this was basically tied in with the state approval. If we did not do something about trying to address the tourists coming to town, that the state would not let us move forward. And if we still need to try to address it. But coming back to what everyone's looking at, the big picture is, how are we doing from a health perspective? If you look at the numbers, the South County, Pismo Beach in particular, has had very few infections. The other issue, though, is that the people coming, if they don't keep social distancing, they will infect each other and go back to their home communities and get infected. So it's a complicated issue, but as far as keeping our local residents safe, the county and the city and all the other cities have been doing a great job of trying to keep everyone safe. They say the infection rate is very low. We haven't had any new infections in Pismo Beach for almost 2 weeks. Just today, there were 3 new infections, one in San Luis Obispo area and one in three in Paso Robles. So the final metric will be how are we doing from a health perspective, and that's ultimately how the county is going to make their decisions.
And that's been such a challenging thing in this because it was such an unknown. We watched what happened in New York, we watched what happened on the East Coast, and it was so scary to think about that coming plague kind of headed our way. It has not translated that way, but I had somebody describe it to me yesterday that I thought was pretty effective is, you know, I know it's been a hardship on everybody, but it's like when a police officer pulls over a suspected drunk driver and could be the nicest guy or gal and explains how this $5,000 in fees and fines and all that will ruin them, will cause such hardship in their life, and they'll end up in a divorce, and it's all that. And so as a police officer, you hate to do this to somebody, and you will never know by taking that person to jail if you saved a life or not. You don't know if you did the right thing necessarily, but the risk of letting that person go and having them go kill somebody is why we have laws and why we try to follow guidelines like we've been doing. But it has been challenging, and I know the businesses are severely impacted, and I'm one of them, as the mayor can attest. You know, everybody had to take a hit. Valerie, you have any thoughts on that?
And that's absolutely right. I mean, you know, with the amount of feedback that we are getting and have gotten from the business community, I mean, you know, it's on a daily basis. And, you know, when we first talked, Jeanette, you know, I was telling you how, you know, trying it can become and how wearing it can become. And I can only imagine those at the city level or even at the county level and beyond that, because just within our own chamber, you know, there's days that we're just like going crazy. And, you know, Lisa's, with what she's been going through, by the end of, you know, the week, she's just spent like emotionally. And so I sit back and I try to be her rock and like watch her, you know, and tell her, hang on, you know, this is going to be over. And, you know, every day I hear her say, why can't people just be kind? You know, why can't people just be kind? And I'm like, it's not going to happen. I'm like, it's clearly just not going to happen right now. And we're seeing a lot of ugliness, but, you know, at the same time, we're seeing a lot of good come out. I mean, there's a lot of good coming out of this, and a lot of people are helping people and businesses in ways that they may have never done before. So, but you know, it's when the businesses call us, and, you know, I've had people crying and saying, I don't know how we're going to come out of this. And, you know, we think we're going to just close our doors after this, and we can't not open our doors. You know, this is killing us. And then on the flip side, we've got people bashing us saying, you know, you're opening too soon. And it's just like, you're getting it from all directions. And so right now I'm more of kind of like, anything we say or do is somebody's going to look at it as being wrong. But all we can do is do what's right in our hearts and know that we're doing the best to help our business community and to help each other get through this, because
yeah. And I think one of the things, there's a few comments here from Laura and Ash. I've got you going here, and I will address your comments. But maybe one thing that we need to start, I should have started at the very top, is what the role of the Chamber of Commerce is. The role of the Chamber of Commerce is to support local businesses and to represent them. And by all means, I'm guessing, and I don't want to put any words in your mouth, that you have encouraged your city leaders to be as lenient as possible with all of your businesses in in Pismo Beach, and vice versa in all the other communities. But you don't make the laws, you don't make the rules, the city does. And then Mayor Waage, you don't make the rules that the county gives to you, nor that the state there is, one of the things Laura said here is there's so much confusion on whose rules we are following, city, county, state, even from city to city. And that is absolutely true, because every county has different rules, every state has different rules. And I can tell you that the decisions are flipping sometimes within hours.
Mhm.
So a
Yep.
county may get information that says you can do this, and an hour later, no, you can't do this.
Yep. Yep.
And so things are changing, and it does go to the higher agency to make the ultimate thing. And then each city and county has to decide, are we going to, is it easier to say I'm sorry than to say, can we do it? What are the ramifications if you just disregard, right? Has any of that ever been discussed, Mayor? Like, well, let's just do our thing and see what happens.
No, we've been trying to engage the business community. We've been having those Thursday conference calls with teleconferences with the business community. We listen very closely to the business community. On our mask ordinance, for example, it was very helpful to get all that comment back. I was in favor of just going with the health officer's format of basically encouraging, not requiring, except for businesses. In order to open, you had to meet certain standards, which includes masks. But I felt like as a way of compromise, the council did agree on what we did come up with, which basically has, and the requirements, which are pretty much are going to be mandated if you're going to open anyway. It's the same standards as Community Centers for Disease Control uses, which is what the county health officer, Dr. Penny Bornstein, uses. So we are listening. We are trying to come up with something that our businesses can meet, at the same time satisfying the concerns of our residents that we're not doing enough. And so I think as we move forward, we will be trying to open up safely. And I applaud all the businesses and trying very hard to meet those requirements. We do listen, but as mentioned earlier, it's just give a little legal basis for everything here. In a pandemic, it's the county health officer that has the power really to make things happen, to make rules on what we're going to do. And the city it's its own legal entity, but when the city was founded, we delegated that health officer responsibility to the county health officer. So what the county health officer says does apply countywide. It's important to keep that in mind. It's a health issue. And by the same token, she is trying to find solutions so we can open. To your point about all the confusion, that is something I think partly because it's fast moving, partly it's not clear sometimes who's in charge. But the big picture is the state provides the big picture on what we can do with standards and so forth. The county came up with a plan which was written with support from the counties, the cities, and others, and business community. And that plan was submitted and was approved by the state. And that's the guidebook we're using now. So that guidebook has certain requirements for the businesses to open up on basically sanitation requirements. And the other thing is, we're looking at ways to allow businesses to expand outside their normal four walls because there's not enough room, for example, for a restaurant to make a living if you only allow about whatever it is, 25% of your spaces, whatever the number comes out to be if you do the math.
And how about that, Mayor? When you talk about that, I know San Luis Obispo is doing the blocking of streets to allow businesses to expand out into the street. I assume that opens a whole nother can of worms though, because I can't imagine all businesses agree that taking away parking and drive-through opportunities is the best. So you get yourself by trying to solve one problem into more controversy, right?
We're trying to solve that issue. We unfortunately, the streets in downtown Pismo are just, they're not very wide. The sidewalks aren't very wide. We don't have a lot of real estate to do a lot more than we're doing already. And the Pier Plaza is not done yet, but that's another story. But we are trying to find other ways, and we're still forming it. So I'm not going to say right now this is what we're going to do, but we're looking at ways to be creative to allow business to expand further than they are right now. Maybe in their parking lot, but we're still formulating that. We haven't put out any rules right now on that.
Okay, then I'm going to put you on the spot. The old reporter's coming in on me now. You mentioned the whole nother story with the downtown or the Pier Plaza. What's the latest on that?
We've had some more delays. It's a long story. it's a complicated project, but there were some design errors made, and we're trying to deal with that now. So we will work through it, but there's some
issues, but I don't want to make it too much.
it'll be
pressure on
delayed a
you.
bit longer. It's delayed longer than I thought it would be. We had trouble getting PG&E in. They're busy with so many other things too. They had to plan a transformer, and a lot of us put some pressure on them to make sure they would actually come in and do it. And they finally showed up, but that delayed us. And so it's going to take a bit longer. We wanted to. Also, the footings for the stairway to the beach and the slide were poured at a time when it was pretty wet, and those are going to take longer to cure. So without getting down in the weeds, it's basically going to be a bit longer, but we're going to open up when we can.
I think even in the last 2 weeks, there's still a lot of work to be done, but it's been fun to even see people being able to enjoy the picnic tables and some of the amenities that are down there. And I think it will, as we reopen, that will finish as well. I did get a comment here. My understanding is the city, I just want you to address this and clarify it, because I know the city's been addressing the mask issue. It's my understanding that the city requires all employees to wear masks. Does the city have plans to have customers? I assume it means businesses require masks. Oh, to have customers require masks to enter a business. In other words, the city's asking employees to all wear masks. What about for anyone going into a store? What did you guys finally decide on?
The requirement only states that a business has to post a sign with the Centers for Disease Control recommendations, which is, if you cannot maintain social distance, you ought to wear a mask. It does not require it. It does require, I'm using the term mask, but it's really face coverings. It does require the employees to wear face coverings unless they have a doctor's exemption. Some people can't wear face coverings, for example. So it basically says the business has to make sure their employees have face coverings if they can, and it encourages, doesn't require the customers to wear face coverings. The business on their own can say, hey, if you don't have a face covering on, you're not coming in. That's not a city decision. That would be a business decision.
So they can do that. There's also a comment about 4th of July from Frank, and how it will play out in Pismo. You've already canceled the fireworks. This past weekend was sort of a dry run of that, right? We had a holiday weekend with great weather. How I know that there's complaints on all sides. I'm hearing it in my neighborhood. How did you think it went overall, though?
Well, we did flood. I'd like to hear from the business community too, but we did flood the downtown with extra police, extra public works. We treated it like a busy, like a July 4th holiday almost. We had extra police. We had undercover police because there's a lot of drinking in public issues, and we put out, we flooded the area with the garbage cans. We had a lot more public works folks, and the cleanup that you folks helped organize too was helpful. So actually we got through pretty well. I mean, it was a lot of folks there, but I think the fact we had lifeguards on duty, we had lots of public works, we had police, big police presence. We're trying our best. I think we did a pretty good job trying to keep it clean. So as far as managing things, I think it went pretty well.
Great.
I guess I'd like to hear from the business community too.
Any business owners out there, we'd love to hear your comments. I can pass them on because I'm keeping an eye on the feed here. Jamie has a question about, she has reservations. I'm sorry, Jamie, I don't know if it's a male or female, but Jamie has reservations at Pismo Coast Village in June, July. This is an interesting question. Will we be able to stay if we're not a San Luis Obispo County resident? And the answer
depends
most
where
places is yes.
We can talk about what's legal and what's practical. The legal issue is right now it's shelter at home. And if you're sheltering at home, it means that you have to have a compelling reason, essential reason to come to the Central Coast. The practical factor is people are coming here, and there's the 50% occupancy requirement. I can't say it's okay to come. It's not okay to come. Are we going to check people's ID when they show up and ask them why they're coming here? That's not our role. If the business want to do something like that, that's up to them.
And it is an evolving situation. I would assume that the state and the county will have a lot different perspective on this, if 2 weeks from today, our numbers haven't ticked up, I mean, we haven't been this busy since last summer that I can think of, that we had that many people in town. How do you handle it? One of the questions is, how do you handle it with hotel owners that had already had reservations? How do you have them cancel? Or did you instruct them that they had to cancel 50% of their reservations?
That's that's actually a question for the county. The city is not enforcing these requirements. It's something the county will do. We've told the county we've got some issues, some legal issues about the order, so we're not going to be involved in any enforcement. So if the county does something, that's up to them, but we are not enforcing that.
Okay. Shelley says her store had a steady stream of customers and most wore masks and socially distanced in the store. It was a great weekend.
Hi, Shelley.
Thanks for writing in, Shelley. Question about the dunes. When do you think the dunes or camping will reopen? And again, that's not really your decision, correct?
Well, it's not my decision, but it depends on the phase. Right now, we're moving through the phases, and thus far we've got some, restaurants opening up with restrictions, but I think that might be I don't remember. I don't have it in front of me, but it may not be until much later phase where we're basically going to open it up to general travel. Right now, it's pretty much the only travel that's supposed to be allowed right now is essential travel. But the state parks is under the governor, and they closed it because that's not essential travel. And the bottom line is, I don't know, but it's probably phase 3 or phase 4 before we start opening those parks.
Okay. Any question? Again, Mike, the question is, how long should we expect the 50% limitation to be in effect? And again, that is not a Pismo decision. That is a county decision.
Well, if I could just add, though,
yes, please.
I think what the county wants to look at are the numbers. The infections, not only here in the Central Coast, which are thus far, I'll back up just a second here. We had the warm weather, in April. We did not have a bump up in, we had a lot of people in April, I think April 25th, and we did not have a bump up at that time. So it depends if we have additional infections here, or if people go back to where they came from, say in the Valley, and their health officer determines they were infected here in the Central Coast, that could feed into some decisions by the state or the health officers talking among themselves. So we're trying to keep, the bottom line, the better job we do at keeping infections low, the better off we will be in moving forward.
Okay, great. And then there was one question here about food service workers. Oh, why are food handlers in restaurants not masked and gloved in Pismo? I don't know if that's the case, because they are supposed to be, correct?
Well, it depends on if they are in a public place. The way the ordinance reads, you only have to wear a mask in a public place.
Okay.
If you are not in a public place and you're more than 6 feet away from the public, you don't have to wear a mask.
Even if
now, there are going to be some
food
food service requirements that are outside the scope of our requirements. To open up, you have to meet all these other requirements that the health agency, health departments, I think, put out, and the guidelines. Those are separate from ours.
Okay, good. What are the plans for inviting guests back to our community when we get to stage 3 and beyond?
Well, once we get to the point where we can open up fully, we have our folks looking at what we might do. And I think the messaging will be that, we will work with the business community to try to have a safe environment here. People want, my concern originally when this started happening was people won't want to come to the Central Coast where it's crowded. I was wrong. I mean,
yeah, you were really wrong.
And I think, but we still need to do 2 things. We need to keep our own public safe, our residents, locals here safe. And we also that messaging needs to be that if they're going to come here, it's going to be a safe environment.
Mm-hmm.
If we can show that our businesses, our restaurants, our retail, the hotels, others are doing a good job and all the social distancing, the masks, et cetera. If we're doing a good job, people will come here. And I think that has to be the message going forward.
Absolutely. James has a question. There's great signage for keeping 6 feet away downtown. Thank you for that. But can signage go up in the downtown area to wear a mask, even if it's just a recommendation and not requirement?
I thought,
The signs are out and the city sent them. I mean, I know the link's on the website and we pushed it out as a chamber to all of our business community. And, you know, we're kind of leaving it up to them to print them out, but the chamber will this week start printing out some signage because I think, yeah, there's definitely, there can be more out there for sure.
The other signage that's up right now, as far as what the city put up, is the be smart, stay apart.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's all over the downtown area. So a lot of people, if they're out walking on the beach or outside, they're not wearing a mask. I believe it's
kind
more
of
indoors that you are seeing a lot of people wearing masks.
Okay, one question. Our resident historian, Effie McDermott, has a question about the Pismo beach masks, and I think they've been ordered, right? Do you know what the status of those are, Mayor?
I know they've been ordered. I have not heard they've arrived yet, but that's the mask we're providing to hotels to give to their customers to try to encourage them to wear the mask.
And that's more of a bandana, right?
I don't know what the design is. I think it says Pismo Beach, and
It's got waves, I'm sure.
Hopefully it's cool
looking. I don't know what it looks like, to be honest with you.
Okay, we're at a half hour now. We don't want this to just go on forever and ever, but we don't want to wrap anything up. This is a first attempt, folks. And I just have to say, I've been doing a lot of work with, like I said, the County of San Luis Obispo and the City of Pismo Beach. And there aren't many places that would bring your mayor up and just open it up to comments like this, and that he would take time out of his day to come do this. I know our city manager is an open door, send me your email policy. They've been communicating. And the pressure that our county leaders are under to try to balance this with, if you can just imagine the controversy that you all have seen on the streets between people who are scared to death of getting this disease and people who believe it's not even it's a conspiracy. They are hearing from all of those people and everyone in between, and all the municipalities that want them to do something, and the state that is going back and forth. This is the most, I cannot in my lifetime, and I was a reporter for 30 years, I can't ever remember anything that put this kind of stress for this prolonged amount of time on our community leaders. So I just have to say, Mayor, thank you for your calm and you taking all the phone calls and the comments. And thank you both for the chamber for being willing to even stage something like this. Do you think this is helpful, ladies?
It's hugely helpful. I mean, the calls that, you know, we've had as a business community with Jim and, you know, some city council, including the mayor, on Thursdays have been huge for us and for the business community. And when things like, you know, the mask ordinance was coming down and, you know, we got wind of, you know, that the businesses could potentially be fined, you know, that's where a lot of that stemmed from. And we quickly, as a chamber, rallied together and said, hey, we need to come together as a business community. We sent out an immediate survey to our business community. We had 70, you know, people vote for not being fined, of course, and not that people didn't want a mask ordinance of some sort, but we had, you know, it was an overwhelming amount of response. And so we quickly got back to city council because we knew that decision was going to be made. So when we can step in and we can rally the business community together, because of course that's what we're here for, we're willing to do that. But yeah, it's everything. It's just been day to day, every day changing, hour to hour, and it's just trying to keep up. So,
and it's a prolonged period. It's not going to end tomorrow. There is a new normal that we're all going to have to live with. And I will say, I've had a couple clients that thought that they were going under during this, and it's a school of thought that I don't think is necessary necessarily true for all businesses. Your business may look so much different. And the two that I'm thinking of in my head changed, stepped back, got out of the fear factor, got out of the blame factor, and changed their model. And one of them had their best month this year with no
Wow.
visitors, nobody
Wow.
walking through the front
Yeah,
door.
yeah.
So your chamber is there to help you redesign your business. I'm happy to help, and I know our city is working on it. Just a few comments I got to read here. Melissa said, we came, we saw, we wore a mask, we couldn't stay away any longer, but we bought tons of taffy. And then Rachel, own a vacation home over here, but waiting to make sure it's safe to come back. Thank you so much for keeping us informed. So people, a lot of appreciation here. This isn't what we were expecting, right? So I
Yay,
appreciate
yay.
everybody
We
being
love
nice.
happy comments. Love happy. The chambers, I don't know, we're the good guys. We like share information. We're always the ones having a good time. Yes, we like to have mixers and drink a lot of wine, but when there is the need, you know, we'll bring it together and handle things professionally as we should. And we're always going to be there to support our business community, first and
And our city.
foremost.
Mayor, any final thoughts from you?
Well, I think that's part of the message is we have been trying to work with the business community. It has been prolonged. It's been very difficult for a lot of folks, and especially the businesses without any income coming in. And hopefully they were qualified for some of the relief from the federal government. But it's been devastating. And now we're starting to see some people come back. I'm glad to see that one business has found another business model that works. And I think sometimes when you have adversity, it's really look for opportunities in that adversity. Sometimes you won't find anything else to do other than try to survive, but at least I'm glad to see that people are being creative.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for being with us. And I mean, for what it's worth, I think Pismo Beach is an amazing place. And I think that there are a lot of people, just as we can see, we're all just so looking forward to getting out and getting back to some sort of normalcy. And not a lot of families are financially able to jump on a plane anymore, nor do they feel 100% comfortable to do that anymore. So I have a feeling this could be an amazing summer for Pismo Beach, depending on what the numbers do and what how the restrictions get loosened up for us all. But there is potential to have a whole new exposure to our fabulous city. So thank you guys for coordinating this. Thanks for being willing. I'm so impressed, Mayor, again, that you said, yeah, absolutely, I'll get up there. And so we are led by wonderful people in this city. And I agree in the county as well. And we did get a comment. It would be great to have somebody from the county here. We kind of threw this together over the weekend. So we will get somebody from the county if we do.
And speaking on that note, I did get a confirmation from Lynn Compton that she would be interested in being on the next call. So again, this is our first one, and we literally threw it together. And so hopefully we'll be doing more of these. And I just want to thank everyone for being nice. So far.
Start the hashtag be nice. Respect the curve. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
so
you.
much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Jeanette.
Thank you, Jeanette.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Mayor.